week as well as a new month. Okay, so as we know, the new month over here, we do have the non-farm payroll coming in this Friday as well. Okay, so a very quick one here to look out for what are some of the events to note. And then of course I'll be also going through the charts for the week. To kind of highlight overall what are some of my opinions and perspective, my analysis and outlook for the week itself. Okay. So this week, the main focus will be on first thing the Canadian central bank decision, right? Bank of Canada interest rate decision over here. The market is currently expecting a rate cut from 4.5 to 4.25. We'll need to definitely see what's gonna happen. Obviously, if we don't get a cut, we might see the Canadian strengthen from there, because then that will be a surprise element to the upside. If we do see a cut, just bear in mind that it might have been priced in, and what would be more interesting from there would potentially be the BOC press conference happening around 10:30 in the evening on Wednesday. Okay, so obviously if that's going to be the cut, then during the press conference, the traders potentially would just be monitoring how aggressive this cut is going to be, and they'll be looking out for when would be the next cut. Okay, now if it's going to be a cut and wait kind of scenario, do be aware that there might be some profit taking as well. And because this is potentially priced in, we might see the Canadian strengthen post-event going into the press conference, right? So just bear that in mind. Now, of course, if you also take a look at the insights over here in terms of dollar Canadian pair, the average volatility on this particular news is about 54 pips, or give and take is about 50 pips after the event, right? So basically, this gives you an insight into what are some of the potential movement you can expect, right, statistically speaking. Okay, so you can see over here it's about 50 pips, so definitely something that is tradable if you're looking at like very short term potential kind of breakout trade. That's something to note. Okay, now after that, the next event would then just bring us towards on Friday. This week itself on Friday, we do have very interesting two event, not only the NFP itself, but at the same time we also have the Canadian labor market, right? So that's definitely something to look out for, okay, because that would create volatility not only on the dollar side of things, but also on the Canadian side, right? So that opens up like huge opportunities we can look out for news trading, okay? So NFP, you can see euro dollar on the average statistics is about 70 to 80 pips, in 4 hours after the event. So that's the average volatility, and of course, Canadian side of things, this one here is on dollar Canadian, giving you about 65 pips on average as well. Okay, so naturally, these two events, they're very, very tradable. Depending on, of course, the approach and the strategy. If you're looking at a breakout, definitely sufficient movement, okay, on average, that you can look to capitalize on as well. Okay, so over here you can see the unemployment rate from the US. The traders right now is expecting kind of similar. This is important moving forward because traders are starting to look out for how well the economy or how resilient the US economy is. Okay, we are potentially looking at very high chance the Fed is going to cut rates in September. So the next thing over here is more of like, while the Fed is really progressing towards rate cut, how well the US economy is really doing. Okay, if the economy isn't really very supportive, very resilient, we may see the dollar actually weaken further, because then traders would price in a little bit more of an aggressive rate cut. However, if the US economy seems to be pretty okay, and then again the Fed would potentially take a cut and wait kind of scenario, we may see the dollar actually strengthen a little bit more, and of course with that, profit taking coming in as well. Okay, so this week, the Canadian side of things and of course the US side of things would be very, very crucial. Okay, so pay attention to the development of it. So with that said, I'll jump into the charts over here and kind of share with you a little bit on my analysis, okay, from a technical point of view. Now, I'll start off with the dollar index, okay. So the dollar index has actually retraced quite a bit. Specifically, right now, it's testing the 38.2 from this high to this low, right? So we are looking at with this as a intermediate peak. We have a 1, 2, 3 potentially wave forwards in development. Okay, and then we'll be expecting this to continue to move lower to complete a 5-wave structure, and then maybe a deeper retracement after which. So what we'd like to see obviously is for price to actually reject off the 101.70 area, and ideally from an Elliott wave perspective, price needs to be maintaining below 102.15, right? Because if this breaks above that, then wave 1 is invalidated, and of course this structure will need to be updated, okay. But for now, this is my primary look, and we're looking at bearishness on the dollar. Of course, fundamentally moving forward, we are also going to be bearish on the dollar, right? And then of course euro dollar here, we'll be looking at upside. Again, inverse relationship 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So if that's going to be the case, of course, the price cannot come into wave 1 territory, which means that it needs to maintain above 1.10000, okay. And of course, right now it's testing a 50% mark, right? We do have a little bit of reaction over here, but to me, I think it's a little bit too early to commit to anything. If this actually make a little bit more of a nicer bounce, maybe breaking some of the highs here, okay, then the buy opportunity would be a little bit more concrete. Okay, but the direction of focus right now is going to be 5th wave up, so we're going to maintain a bullish direction of bias on the euro. Okay. GBP USD over here, very similar, but of course structure wise looks a little bit different. This push up is definitely very strong, therefore I'm kind of leaning towards this being wave 3, and of course we are pulling back, so that will put us on wave 4. Technically speaking, again, the invalidation would be here because wave 4 cannot pull back all the way to where wave 1 territory is. And of course, moving forward, any sort of a corrective pullback would be seen as an opportunity to look for the buy, right, for wave 5 development to the upside. Now wave 4 here, of course, ideally is somewhere between the 236 and 382, which is already where the territory is. Now while the invalidation level is all the way below here, if the price actually come back and test the 50% mark, it starts to reduce a little bit of the probability of wave 4, though it's still going to be valid. And of course, we have also that confluence of previous structure around 50%, right? So this pullback may come down a little bit deeper, and overall it can be a deep wave 4, but it's still generally a valid, okay, it's still going to be a valid sequence in terms of a 5-wave structure, okay. So that's on the GBP USD side of things. Aussie dollar here, I'm potentially focusing more on the downside for the week. I'm seeing this as a 5-wave structure completed. Okay, we did get a little bit of an early sign of a push, okay, as the retracement seems to suggest that it may have started. So moving forward, I'm a little bit more of a short-term bias over here and expecting market to kind of make a deeper pullback, right? There are some key levels that the pullback may react off, okay. One of it is going to be this low here, okay. The market may potentially just bounce off that and continue to the upside. The other one is where the 382 is going to be, right, which is this level, okay. Now I seriously doubt that it's going to go down as deep as wave as deep as 50% of the entire leg, simply because for this to just come down all the way to 50%, it means that either the dollar is going to be strengthening quite a bit or the Aussie is going to be weakening quite a bit, right? So from a fundamental kind of alignment, we're more leaning towards dollar weakness, and therefore I'm just going to be looking out for maybe some sort of a more shallow pullback, okay? So that's on the Aussie dollar take. Next up, we have the dollar Canadian, okay? So dollar Canadian over here, you can see it's kind of pulling back quite correctively. Wednesday we have the news, Friday we have a news as well, okay. So that may build up into a possibility where we may get one more push down, and then another pushback up, right? So I'm still bearish simply because this is corrective in nature and the market is still respecting this high at 1.3620, and more importantly we have this impulse leg, right? So the directional bias from a technical point of view is going to be bearish. If we can align that with a catalyst, or say a potential catalyst coming from the news on Wednesday and Friday, then we may get a nice decent opportunity, right? So the directional focus is bearish. The key level right now to look up for is around 1.3530. Okay, so bear in mind. Next up, we have the dollar yen. Dollar yen here, I'm shifting a little bit on my bias in the near term. Initially, we were looking at this being wave 4, and then of course kind of expecting wave 5 to develop and break this. But of course, we did not get that, right? And the market kind of bounced back up, took out this minor high. So last week, I also covered if price took out this high, we're gonna need to pivot into our second scenario, which is this, right? Where we are then now looking at a 3 bigger wave sort of a correction. Okay, so short term here, we're kind of expecting price to maybe make another move back up towards 151. So in the near term, we may get a buy side opportunity, right? Trading it up as a pullback phase. Right? So opportunities available, of course, with NFP on Friday as well. If we can get some decent sort of a pullback, Friday we may get an opportunity up. All right, so that's on the dollar yen. Then we have gold. XAU USD over here, the entire of last week has been in a consolidation. I would expect this to come down a little bit more towards 2468 area. If you can get that, then that will build into a very nice tree wave for a potential long-term buy. Okay, gold here, I'm going to be bullish. I don't think there's really a reason for us to be looking at the sell side of things. So yeah, we'll be looking at upside over here. Okay. Crude oil, I'm just gonna maintain a neutral point of view. I think this would likely turn out into some sort of a triangle structure. For now, I'm just gonna be neutral. Okay. I don't really like trading off the triangle. But right now, this consolidation does seems like, you know, it's kind of building into some sort of an A, B, C, D, E, right? So for me, I'll just let this play out first. You know, and then after that, we'll see how the market can break out. Okay. For some sort of a confirmation before really taking a directional bias. Okay. So this entire leg here, we're just gonna be neutral. S&P, we are definitely bullish. So any sort of a pullback, you know, will definitely be more inclined to look for upside. This area might have completed wave 4, or it might still be an internal wave 3 developing. But whatever it is, you know, obviously you just need to have a technique and a setup to get involved in. But the direction here is definitely bullish. Okay, there's basically no reason to be selling the S&P, right? So this one here, just focus on the buy side of things. Okay. The two other yen, pound yen and odd yen, I think you just want to leave it. Okay. Again, the market is just not forming very clear structure. Okay. If you want to trade the yen, I think the dollar yen will be one of the clearer ones. Okay. Pound Australia will be bearish. Okay, I think this one here quite clear as well. Okay. So you have this impulsive leg. Okay, and then potentially this is developing a correction, right? So you can look for a sell side in the near term. The invalidation will be this level. Okay, so of course, as long as price remains below that level, you want to look out for the sell side, right? You might even look at it in terms of like pulling the fips. You know, 50 and the 618 will give you some crucial area to look out for. So that will be like 1.9425, 1.9550. Okay, those areas will give you a sell side opportunity to look out for. Okay, so that's on the pound odd. EuroCAD, price is kind of reacting off the Fib as well as potentially a three-way structure over here. So my take would be that potentially this would be a 3-leg move. You want to wait for price to maybe take out that mini swing high first. Okay, some sort of a break above. And if you can get a decent correction pullback, then that will open up a buy side. Okay, so give it a bit more time and just gonna be neutral. Of course, we want to obviously give time for the market to prove to us that maybe the bottom has been established and a retracement or even the potential reversal to the upside has started. Okay, so that's on it. Bitcoin here came very close to 50% mark. Again, I'm just neutral on this right now, giving it a bit more time. Of course, if this is gonna start bouncing up, we want the market to prove first, right? Kind of like break above minor high and then pull back, and then we'll see. Okay, so this needs time, right? We want to wait out for that. Ethereum over here reacting off that 1, 2, 3 area. Of course, now with a potential little double bottom structure developing, we have this neckline. Okay, so again, if you want to be more cautious, wait for the break of that, pull back, then only take it up. Okay. So I think overall, in terms of like clearer opportunities and structure to look out for the week itself, we do have definitely the Aussie dollar. Okay, sorry. Let me change, yeah. Just do that. Okay, they only allow me rate as of now, right? Okay, so it's fine, we'll keep the rate one. So we have Aussie dollar potentially on that. Okay, dollar yen, as we talk about it, right? Potential upside. The other one is the pound odd. Okay, so pound odd potential one here as well. Euro cat, we might need to give it a little bit more time, so I'll just take that away. I think, if you want to commit to the buy side, you need to wait for some confirmation. Okay, for now. Yeah, so I think gold, I mean, if you want to look at it short term, you can also look to sell this, depending on your time horizon, right? But overall, I think the top three that potentially you want to keep that on is Aussie dollar, dollar yen, and of course, pound Australia. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Someone is asking here on the chat, what's your risk reward ratio? On average, I try to aim for every trade a minimum of 1:2. Okay, so some trades we're able to take like 1:2 point something, 1:to maybe 2.2, 2.4, but kind of average out, the minimum expectation here we're looking out for is about 1:2. All right, just very quickly going through some of the indices. In terms of the US market over here, we have the S&P I covered just now, right? So this is NASDAQ. Seems to be reacting off wave 4 potentially develop. So looking at things here, maybe we are looking at wave 5 push to the upside. Okay, so very simple projection. If let's say I take this extension of 1 to 7, wave 5 can extend towards there. The other very simple measurement is to take the length of wave 1. Okay, kind of map it over here. So somewhere around there as well. Okay. So that's on NASDAQ. Dow Jones over here is forming a little bit of a different structure. Okay, so Dow Jones seems to be developing more of a diagonal structure over here. So if you're looking at bullish equities market, maybe Dow Jones may not be the best among it. Okay. German DAX, really nothing there, not much of a clarity. Nothing this as well. A50 is coming down very strong. The Hang Seng here seems to be also, potentially coming down a little bit more. Okay. So yeah, if you're looking to trade, let's say the Hang Seng, my focus would be very much bearish bias, right? Meaning, look out for sell opportunity instead of the buy side, right? So the bearish bias, the directional bias on that would be definitely bearish. Okay. Nothing there. This one here very corrective as well. So probably want to wait for the pullback. Okay. Yeah. So I think in terms of like opportunities to really capitalize on, will either be the S&P or the NASDAQ, right? I mean, if you want to pick one, I think the NASDAQ seems to be giving us a little bit more clarity. Of course, we have this structure here. Market seems to be breaking off. You can see wave 4 pullback is very clean, right? Whereas S&P, the pullback is a little bit more of a complex structure, right? So for that reason, if you want to pick one index to be focusing on the upside, the Nasdaq will be the better one. Okay. Yep. So I hope that's clear. Generally, that's the outlook from my side for this week itself. Okay. So all the best. To trading. Okay. Maybe just before we end off, right? Very quickly. I'll just bring this up. Give me some time. I believe this has been updated too. Great. Okay. Just before we end off, you know, just like bring this up a little bit, see who is interested. If you're interested, I'll just drop the person in charge of, the contact point, so that you can also reach out to the person. Okay. Just put this here. Okay. So basically, what is this, right? This is basically a PAM account. For those of you who are familiar with a little bit on a PAM account, is quite similar to the idea of copy trade, right? Where you have your own account, I have a account that I trade, and then you can make a decision if you want to tag along, right, on those trades that I'm taking. Okay, so this account has been running for slightly more than a year. We started this officially in May 2023. You can see the average statistics over here all the way to 2024. Okay, the average return per month is about 3%. So for those of you who are keen, okay, this is something you can tag along on PAM as well, under the broker called Forex. Okay, so I'll just drop the person in contact over here. You can drop, you can drop her a WhatsApp, to find out more and say that, oh, you're interested to join in the PAM. Okay, and basically she'll be able to guide you in terms of like what you need to set up. Okay, you need to register your account, you need to sign a LPOA document before you can actually begin. Okay, yeah, so this has been performing quite, where is it? Okay, I would say, quite decent. Of course, there are some months that are slightly low, but on average, we are able to do about 2 to 3% on a month-to-month basis, right? So if this is something that you're keen to explore, this is something that you're, interested in, okay, just feel free to drop a WhatsApp message, okay? So just leave this here a little while. Of course, for those of you who are watching, just feel free to pause it if you need more time, okay, to just kind of key in the number. Okay, right, so there's a question here from Bills. On the Aussie dollar, there's a bullish order block on the daily time frame on the H4, also a breaker block. Yeah, so I think it's still bullish, right? So let me just maybe very quickly go back to the Aussie dollar. Yeah, right. So it really depends on the methodology that you kind of use to give you a directional bias, right? Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, some different methodology, this can be a potential order block, right? Obviously you'll be looking at this as a bullish structure, right? Depending on how strict you're looking at as well, because technically this swing high hasn't been taken out because there's no candle close above it. It can potentially be just a liquidity grab and this push down potential as well. Again, I'm not gonna go into the details of that. But yeah, I mean, there's an order block here. If you look down here, there's also potentially order block, right, with fatter gaps as the market is moving higher. If you're using that to establish a directional bias, yeah, right. I mean, there are many different ways to look at the charts, right? So you need to just be comfortable with the method that you're familiar with, the method that aligns with you as well. Okay. For me, I utilize mainly the Elliott wave principle, so patterns in waves, to identify the directional bias, right? And I use the order flow method to help me execute trades. Okay, so I'm very clear on, like, when I'm establishing my directional bias, I'll be using mainly the wave patterns. And then of course, if I'm looking to execute a trade, right, then I'll be looking at order flow as a potential entry technique. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. Okay. Ethereum over here, I kind of talked about it earlier as well. Potentially a double bottom structure with a neckline. But of course, you want that confirmation with the market breaking that neckline before kind of committing to the upside of things. Okay. Good. So that's all from me. All the best. Okay, for the week itself. Let's see how the market is going to develop. And as usual, I'll see you guys in the next session. Okay, so see you guys. Bye bye.